So good morning officially, everyone. My name is Lorna Helms. I saw many of you last week at the buyer consultation. So I'm excited to see you all here today. What I'm going to ask, and I asked this last week, is please put your cameras on if you can. Unless you're driving, I don't care if you haven't taken a shower. I don't care if you have no makeup on. I really need everybody to give me energy because right now I'm talking into a little black box and I don't have everybody's smiling faces here. Awesome. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Juliet. And thank you, Stephen, so far. So who's excited for those of you who are just about done today for being just about done with Ignite? This is where you get to talk back to me.
I am.
18 days is a long time, huh?
Yes.
I bet your brain's a little bit on overload, and that's okay, right? There's a lot of information and you're going to revisit this a lot. Today, I know you do have a makeup class tomorrow. Does everybody know that? There was a class that was canceled and my understanding is they're running it tomorrow. So you guys should check in with your PCs and see if that is actually happening, but you may have one more day tomorrow. Typically this is the last class, but tomorrow I believe you have one more day. So typically I have a MCTT or somebody else helping me teach this class to check the chat, to help, like if you're raising your hand and I can't see you. So you have just me today, which is awesome. I teach this all the time. I'm fine with that. And that means I can't really look at the chat when I share my screen. So I just need you to unmute and ask me the question. You're not going to interrupt me. It's totally fine. I want you to ask questions as we go along. In the chat, I'm going to put today's participant guide so that way you all have it. So please grab it out of the chat now. That way you are prepared. Today's the fun part. Right? You've been talking about how to find a buyer and buyer consultations and listing consultations and all of the tools to help build your business. But today we're talking about you have an offer accepted. Woohoo! And what happens from there to closing, right? And you want this to be a smooth transaction. So that is what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to share my screen. Not yet. Hold on. I guess it's not on there. All right. Now I'm going to share my screen. Can you all see the Ignite? All right. Woohoo! I love that. So hopefully out of the chat, you've gotten that. So before we get started, are there any questions? Do you all remember me from last week? Do I need to reintroduce myself? Mentioning that I'm at the KW Boston Northwest Market Center, Lexington, Concord, and Cambridge. I was the PC coach here for 5 years, and actually next week I am starting a new role as the PC coach for my team at Livian. So I love coaching and I love teaching. So I am really excited to be here with you guys today. Any questions? Okay, the 3 people I can see, just shake your head. All right, so let's get started. Have you seen this before? Right, every single time. So what we're going to focus on today, you've learned how to grow your business by lead generating, right? Making seller and buyer presentations and making sure you know your market, right? Previewing real estate. But today we're going to talk about running the business, which is negotiating contracts today. Transaction management to closing, vendor management, and compliance risk management. Definitely some compliance and risk in selling real estate. Would you agree with that? Right?
Yes.
Thank you for answering. I'm not sure who did, but thank you.
Okay.
All right. The first thing we're going to do is if you have your participant guide, if you haven't printed it out, I want you to take out a blank piece of paper because we are going to build our buyer and seller timelines. And so there's someone at my office who calls this the fragile period, right? From when you get the accepted offer to closing. That is really what people are paying you for. This is the most important part. Everybody wants to get to the table and to the closing table. Would you agree with that? Right, so we are project managers. That's the way I look at myself. We are the coordinators of all things. And so we have to make sure that everything is getting done that needs to get done. Does that make sense? And sometimes, you know what that might mean? That might mean that we help the Cobra go, right? We might be doing something that maybe you think they should be doing. You'll hear that a lot in real estate. That's not my job, that's their job. Does that help anybody? Right, so our mindset is, let's just all work together, right? One of our values at KW is win-win, right? So sometimes you do 90% of the work and the other agent does 10%. And then sometimes, you know, you're slammed with business and all of a sudden they're doing a little more than you normally would do. So it's a give and take, right? And I'm gonna always ask all of you, have any of you gone through your realtor training yet and learned about the code of ethics? Okay, so one of the things in the code of ethics is how you treat other agents. This is a really pivotal time to think about giving each other grace, right? I have no idea. I'm going to look at the three people who I can see on my screen. I have no idea what's happening in Keith, Juliet, or Steven's lives right now. For all I know, someone is sick, right? They might have had a rough day with the child in the morning. I have that often. You know, you just don't know what's happening, right? And so sometimes people are a little grumpy. Do you ever feel grumpy once in a while? I'm a pretty happy person. Even I feel grumpy once in a while, right? So just remember to like, come from curiosity. I wonder what's happening with that person. Okay, that's my get off my soapbox, but I want you to always come from that, come from curiosity on this. All right, so this is building your buyer timeline. So before we do this, I want to be able to like see everybody. I want you to take your piece of paper, right? And I want you on one end, let's see, I gotta see how you're looking at it. But on one side, you're gonna make a line like that looks like this. And then you're gonna straight line, like a timeline, like you used to do in school. Remember those? When they used to make you do the timelines? So 2 ends and then a long line. Everybody do that on their paper. This is so important. I cannot tell you, you need to be writing this stuff down. Okay, is everybody ready? Get your piece of paper. Now I'll share my screen again. So the buyer has an accepted offer, right? What next? Oh my gosh, we've got the accepted offer. The first time I had my accepted offer back in 1994, I remember calling my buyers, oh my gosh, you got your house, I'm so excited, congratulations. And they're like, it's the first step. They were telling me that. So I was so excited. You get so excited. That's the execution of the contract. That's the first step. Okay. What happens once the seller, we're going to put our buyer hats on today. So right now we're buyer agent. The seller has signed the contract and sent it back to you, signed by the seller and the buyer. What now?
Can set up a home inspection.
They need to, most likely, in most of our states, they have set up a home inspection. So after execute contract, which is your first big line, a little line should say home inspection. Okay, is everybody putting this on their timeline? All right. So in each state, we're going to be a little bit different, right? So in Massachusetts, we are a 2-contract state. Other states, you have a due diligence period where maybe there's a second amount of money due. Does that happen? Anybody know in your states? Yeah, I see Keith saying yes. Awesome. So home inspection is you do a home inspection in your due diligence period, correct? In your state?
Okay.
You do, trust me. If they're going to do one. So, but we haven't even gotten there, right? We've set up the home and we're going to do the home inspection, but the contract's executed. Who gets a copy of that executed contract? Participatory, my friends. If you're not sure, it's okay to guess.
The lender.
Everyone?
The lender may get one. Correct.
So,
Massachusetts, a lot of times we're gonna wait till that second contract of purchase and sale. But in most states, you're gonna get the lender a copy of that contract. So the lender gets it. The buyer
mhm.
Seller.
gets it.
The attorney,
Well, the attorney gets it. The seller's agent will get their client that piece. Again, we have our buyer agent hat on.
and the sellers,
What'd you say, Linda?
the sellers.
The seller's agent will do that. So the seller's agent has sent us the signed
Oh,
contract.
yeah, we send it to the listing agent and then they'll forward that.
Right, so the listing agent, we send the buyer's offer, right? Or the contract to purchase to the other agent. We get an accepted offer. Their seller signs it. That means it's an accepted offer. We get copy back. We give it to the buyer. You guys should be writing this down. You're never gonna remember all of this. But I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna teach you a
Yeah.
great way to remember. You're gonna get it
My
to,
dad.
hi Lisa.
Apologies.
You're gonna get it to the buyer's attorney
Last
and
night.
Okay,
possibly
but it was,
the buyer's, I just muted her. The buyer's attorney, the buyer, and the lender. Those are the three. When you have a contract, what happens, what is consideration for that contract?
Earnest money.
Earnest money, that's right. We have to get that check or that deposit over to that listing agent. I just think I'll pop it in the mail. No, 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 no. You get in your car, you drive it. You get it there as soon as possible. That is basically firming up and making sure your offer is secure. So if your buyer can get it right over there, great. Like this morning, I'm teaching Ignite. I got an accepted offer last night. They have a half day at work, so they're gonna drive the deposit check there to the listing agent, drop it in their mailbox. But sometimes I will meet my client and grab the check because they're gonna be at work all day. And I drive it to the listing agent. Now, if I sell something, I sold something in Boston. I did overnight that one because I don't live anywhere near Boston. Right, so, but you wanna get it there. That is what's gonna make sure it happens. So I can't reiterate that enough. So that's something you need to do, right? But even before the home inspection, before anything else, check, get it there. Home inspection. As a buyer agent, do you need to attend the home inspection?
yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I love home inspections. Has anybody been to a home inspection yet?
Yes.
I have another one Saturday.
Awesome. They're awesome. You learn so much at a home inspection.
Mhm.
And everyone in my family loves it because I come home and I'm like, we need to do this and we need to do that because this is wrong. So, and I've been doing that for 30 years. So you don't want to ever be married to me. So next, we've had the home inspection. What happens at the home inspection? Actually, let me ask you this. What's the home inspection for?
Make sure nothing is wrong with the house or whatever they're buying.
Make sure there's nothing structural, mechanical, safety, those type of defects, things you can't see. Right? So my friends, and I don't know if we talked about this at the buyer consultation class, but we're gonna talk about it now. When you're doing the buyer consultation, you want to make sure that you're having a conversation about what a home inspection is and isn't. In this market in particular, what it isn't is a time for renegotiation. Because what's the seller gonna do with the 10 offers behind you? If you go, well, we
Take
want
the
you to
other one.
fix A, B, C. They're gonna say bye.
For another buyer.
They're gonna go to another buyer, right? There's a little pressure on our poor buyers. Now, that being said, if it's a safety or structural defect and the other agent knows about it, what do they need to do?
Disclose it.
Close it.
Disclose it, right? So the fact is when a house comes back on the market, everyone wants to know what happened. If they know, they have to disclose it. So sometimes it makes more sense for the seller to work with you, right? If I'll use mold. Mold's always a good one, right? That for as an example comes up. Right, and it's definitely mold. If it's not mold-like symptom, whatever, then they have to disclose it. right? If there is a rotted sill in the house, they have to disclose it. So it might behoove the seller, because maybe somebody will take that on, but maybe not, to just say, you know what, I'm gonna get it taken care of. So I don't want you to feel like your buyers are powerless, but you do need to know that this is not just a, oh, we saw a broken hinge on the kitchen door, we want you to fix it. That's not what a home inspection's about, because is that structural? Is that
No.
safety? I mean, it's not too bad. Can you guys hold on 1 second? I have a glass being fit on my car. Hold on 1 second. Talk among you. I'm so sorry.
Hey guys, I came in a little late. Could someone fill me in with what came before driving the check to the location?
Yeah, you have to send a signed contract. Once you receive the signed contract back from the listing agent that the sellers have signed, you send a copy to the buyer, the buyer's attorney, and the lender. And then the next step would be pick up the earnest money deposit check. You want to make sure that you drive it there, unless it's super far, then maybe you could overnight it. But regardless, I usually try to drive it, bring it, drop it off, and then you schedule the inspection. And that's where we're at right now. And then.
Awesome. Thank you, Linda, for catching him up.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And I'm so sorry. I have a broken windshield and I've been waiting 3 weeks and they're on their way. So I was like, I gotta pick up or they're not gonna know where to go. All right, so no more interruptions. Home inspection. We got that down, right? It is for the buyer to understand what they're buying, but there may be some renegotiation. Would you agree with that? It could happen. In a regular market, it happens more often than it's happening right now. And for those of you who just joined, I'm asking everybody if you are in a safe place to please turn your cameras on, okay? All right. We've had the home inspection. They're ready to move forward. In Massachusetts, we're telling the attorney, like, we're ready to go to that second contract. In other states, you're ready to go to you've gone through your due diligence period and you're moving forward. Okay, and you want to let the lender know, like, we're good to go. Again, with that second contract in Massachusetts, making sure that that deposit money gets delivered. In other states, I believe, and I am not from other states, so you're going to have to help me with this, my friends. You have a second deposit as well after the due diligence period. Is that correct?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Okay, see, so I'm not sure. Check with your market centers. Go to your contracts classes. Keith, you were going to say something.
I was just gonna say that I've seen the second deposit after an inspection period, but sometimes I don't. So it's like an optional second, earnest money deposit
Okay.
in Connecticut or Rhode Island.
Thank you for letting me know. So again, check with your market centers. I am Massachusetts, so I can only tell you my piece of that part of it. All right, so we've gotten through home inspections. And we've either done the second contract if we're in Massachusetts or not. So Massachusetts people, you need a line there and says purchase and sale. What happens between the purchase and sale and closing, or that after due diligence period?
Get the financing?
They get financing, just a little thing, financing. Right, so put mortgage contingency. The next line should say mortgage contingency. In order for them to get their mortgage, what has to happen from the bank?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Alexandria.
For the line you're supposed to put on for the mortgage, is that after home inspection? I missed that.
Yeah, it's after home inspection. Yep, so here, I'll share my screen and I'll show you guys. So we've done the home inspection. So right here, you want to, don't worry about this line. That's why I don't show it, because it's kind of confusing. But we'll put it right somewhere after home insurance and home, right in here. Okay, so put your little line right there that says mortgage contingency. It's typically around 3 weeks after your accepted offer. Typically, like after the purchase and sale, after your due diligence. So 3 to 4 weeks in there, okay? And again, check with your market center how your state timeline works, but it does happen, right? That they get their mortgage contingency. But what do they need from the bank in order to get that mortgage commitment?
An appraisal.
An appraisal, that's right, exactly. So you're the buyer agent. Does the appraiser call you? Not typically.
No.
They typically call the listing agent. You know what our job is though? To make sure that listing agent's gotten that phone call, right? So typically within 5 days, I will check in with the listing agent. Hey, have you heard from the appraiser? Because if they haven't, what do I need to do? I need to call my lender. Hey, they haven't heard from an appraiser yet. Can you check in to see what's going on? Okay, so again, we're managing the process. We want to make sure, and usually the listing agents are pretty good about saying, hey, I'm meeting the appraiser Wednesday at 5 or whatever. So we're checking in, making sure, right? Because we want to check back in with the lender. So the appraisal's been done. They have their mortgage commitment. What happens next? They need to do a final walkthrough the day before or the day of closing. What's the
I'm doing
point
one
of the-
today.
You are? Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be leaving shortly. But I'll have it
Okay,
on. I'll still have this on.
okay, good. So at the final walkthrough, is that like a 2-hour event? It should be
No.
quick. No, thank you, Ian. It is literally for them to go in, walk around, make sure the house is still standing. There's no holes in the walls from movers. There's not a bunch of junk there. This sometimes goes really well. In fact, I would say 95% of the time, it goes really well. What do you think could go wrong at this period right here?
If they took anything that they said was gonna stay in the inclusion.
Exactly. Yep. So that is definitely one thing. Yep. What else?
Or if they
I'll
left
put the washer and
items.
dryer back.
If they left
something,
anything.
you know.
They
Agreed
left
with you.
anything. What'd you say, William?
Repairs that were agreed to were done.
Say that one more time. I'm so sorry.
If they had something that a repair that they wanted to see if it was done.
Correct. So if a repair was done. That's a really good one because a lot of times that does happen as they're walking around. If the seller had agreed to any repairs from the home inspection, I will tell you again, somewhere in your timeline before the walkthrough, you want to see a receipt for repairs done. You don't want to wait till the walkthrough to find out it wasn't done. Now
Yeah,
you might walk in and say, it wasn't done to my satisfaction, but again, hopefully it was done by a professional and done correctly. But that's a really good one. There could be a hole in the wall, right? The movers could have dinged something. A floor could be dinged. Like there's a new stain they didn't know about. Now, has anybody ever looked under their couch on the carpet that's under your couch? Probably kind of disgusting, right? And could there possibly be a stain somebody didn't know about?
Sure.
Right? And could a buyer be freaking out about that at the last minute? I didn't know about that stain.
yes.
What are some objection handlers we could have? Oh, what'd you say, Ian?
I said, hopefully not, but you never know.
You never know, right? Stains happen. That's why you'll see a lot of people at open houses like lifting up area rugs, right? Because they want to see what does it look like underneath. It might happen, right? But the fact is what's our job? To stay cool, calm, and collective and be a problem solver. So let's go with that example. What are some things we could do if we get to the final walkthrough and there's a stain on the carpet that they was not there or they didn't see before?
You could ask for a seller credit to get them clean.
To get it fixed, you mean, Linda?
Yes, like I had a situation with one of my closings, and when I did the walkthrough, what we had asked for wasn't, you know, they agreed on certain things, but then there was stuff that we weren't even aware of. So what we had to do was negotiate with the seller on what we can come up with an agreement.
Everything's in,
Yeah, the buyer asks, we present, and they come back and tell them what they want to do or what they're willing to do. And then if the buyer accepts it, then we can move forward, because that was something that wasn't there before and unaware of. So we have to solve it before we want to close. And sometimes if it's something minor, I kind of talk to the buyer about it, and some of them are okay with it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Linda, thank you for finishing with that, because the fact is this, we might be freaking out inside. Oh my gosh, there's a stain. Oh no. Like, take a deep breath. Take your cue from your client. That doesn't mean you should freak out if they're freaking out. But what that means is, are they upset about it? Or are they so excited and they're like, whatever, we'll just clean it when we move in? Does that ever happen, Lisa?
Yes, that has happened, but I was thinking of a circumstance that I had and I wanted to ask you about. So we did the final walkthrough, and I didn't turn the heat on. I wouldn't, we'd had an inspection, we had done all of that. The walkthrough went fine, and the owner called me 2 days after moving and said the heat has not been working. And I had a small heart attack. And I wondered if it was my responsibility, if I had, if I was supposed to have done that. And as it was, it took 2 more days for his heat to figure it out. And it was working eventually. And the seller rather, was working with him to figure out what the problem was. And it was a nest problem. But in that moment, my heart did falter. And I wondered if that was, an obligation, and if he would be out out that cost. That would be considered, that would fall to the seller, right? That would be I don't know what you do. They've already closed. So that's my.
So, I mean, once they've closed, most attorneys will tell you, I mean, if you do the walkthrough and the heat's not working, that it needs to probably have figured out prior to closing. Like, we did the walkthrough, the attorney's asking us, like, how did it go? Well, the heat we couldn't get the heat to turn on. It's a call to the other agent to say, hey, is there a trick to this? Can the seller tell us how to get this going? Because I actually had that same problem with my nest. So I know exactly what happened.
Right.
But now, once it's closed, the seller could be like, you had a walkthrough. Good luck. And luckily you had a great seller and it was not a big deal, but it is definitely the time.
Oh, so that came up in post, as we discussed this, and someone suggested that he wouldn't have been liable because it was supposed to be passed in the same working condition as it was at inspection. And so we didn't have to pursue anything, but I was just wondering if we had to pursue it with bring the attorneys back, if he'd had any recourse.
I would
definitely. Don't think so.
I don't think so, but I would definitely check
Wow.
with an attorney, because again, I've had things happen the day after closing, like, hey, this isn't working. You had a walkthrough. That's what they'll say.
Okay.
That's why that
So
walkthrough is so important.
So we do put heat on during walkthrough.
I would check things. Yeah. I mean, just a quick run of the water, turn the heat on, AC if it's summer, just make sure, because anything can happen in 6 weeks, and again, the seller might even not be aware of it. If they moved out 4 days before, might not know either. And again, this is me living in my unicorn and rainbow world, but most people are really good. And the sellers would say, like, geez, I feel horrible. It was working. I don't know what happened. And they'll work with you, like what happened with you, Lisa. Right. But some are not quite as upstanding. So it is definitely a good idea to do that walkthrough. There are instances where you do the walkthrough the night before. And I've heard this, I've never had this happen to me, and the house burns down.
Oof.
Right? Or there's a pipe bursts. Right? So I try to do it as close to the close, like the morning of, if I can. Now, that's not always possible. It's just not the way schedules work. The buyer doesn't seem to understand they need to take time off of work when they're buying a house, little things like that. But do the best you can to do it the morning of, if that works. Sometimes the night before, I've had this happen, and these are my favorite closings. the sellers at the house and kind of goes through with the buyers some systems like, hey, there's this little trick when this happened. Like there's tricks to everything, right? When you own a house, do you know the nuances of your house? Right? And so sometimes it's really helpful to have the seller be there. Not always, and they're not usually, but it's really nice when you've had a really nice transaction happening that the seller says, oh, I'd like to do it, and be there. It doesn't happen very often, I have to be honest. But okay, any questions about the final?
I have actually asked for them to be there. I purchased my home and I did my walkthrough. Oh my God, when I'm living here, I'm like, why are these outlets? They were working before. And it was a trick downstairs in the basement. There's a separate little unit that you have to click to turn on these. So I'm here putting extension cords, got an electrician to come out, and little was it, just a little plug, like a little plug that they put that had a reset that went for the upstairs. So with that experience, usually I either, when we do the inspection, it's also another way because they're touching every single thing there. So you're walking with your buyer. I usually go my inspection. I don't know if everybody else, I know a lot of people don't, but when I go to the
inspection, you better be.
yeah, exactly. So some people don't. I always go through my inspection because you never know. They can frighten my buyer. Let me calm them down over here. So what we do is the inspector is going through every single thing. If there's something that the inspector couldn't figure out, I jot everything down. I speak to the listing agent and I ask, hey, by the way, this wasn't working. Is there somewhere that we have to reset it? This wasn't working as well. So, and then I try to partner with the listing agent to get the information for my buyer. So that way we're all aware of little tricks and things like that that are not, the inspector couldn't figure out.
That's awesome. And that's exactly it, Linda. The home inspection is such a good time to get those questions answered because they are those little nuances. And we are partners with that co-broker, right? That we're working together because we all want the same thing, right?
Sell a house.
Get it done. Help buyers buy and sellers
Even
sell.
if but sometimes we do waive inspections, especially like I just sold a condominium and they waive inspection. So it was my job to make sure that when we did the walkthrough, I tested everything. And again, the AC and the heat unit was not working. And I'm messing around with the buttons, it's not working. So I called the listing agent. What they did was they wired, I don't know how they did, to a wall unit that just clicking it turned on the AC unit they had plugged in. It was kind of weird, but we would have never known that. So going through your walkthrough, it's like, especially if you're waiving inspections, you're gonna definitely want to make sure that you check things like that. Make sure the stove is working, the refrigerator, the microwave, because again, you waive the inspection. So just make sure when we do our walkthrough, we're thorough with it.
Exactly. Thanks, Linda. All right, so we've done the walkthrough. We go to the closing. So this has changed dramatically in 24 months because we've had this pandemic and we couldn't go because the attorneys were like, nope, we want nobody here, right? We just want the buyers and us. And they were sitting outside with masks on 6 feet apart, right? For the last 24 months. We're now all back together, we're inside. So at a closing, what's our role? We literally sit there. Literally, I maybe make copies of licenses. I sometimes hand the keys over. I'm so excited. Give my buyers a hug, right? But you're there for moral support. You're there to see it through, right? Sometimes there's a question. You're able to get in touch with the other agent, ask the question. So I highly encourage, and I know that they tell you it's not your top 20% of what you should be doing, but I, as a service-minded person, like to see it through to the end. Now, sometimes I can't. Right? There is a conflict there. That happens if at all possible. And again, some of the attorneys still don't want you there at this point. They're still like a little COVID, like, but try to be there if you can. Make sure you're checking in with your buyers. The closing is happening. But at the closing, go ahead, Lisa.
Just on the buyer side, you're not there representing the seller. On the, when you are
We
representing
have our
the seller,
buyer
you don't
hat
go.
on right now.
I know, but if you were representing the seller, do you go to the closing?
No, we're going to talk about that next.
Okay, sorry.
Well, it depends. I shouldn't say no.
Okay.
Depends. I
Okay.
promise, I'm gonna have my
Okay.
seller hat on next.
Okay, all right.
So then we have the closing. Sometimes you get closing gifts for your client. Has anybody ever heard of this before? Have you bought a house before and gotten a closing gift? What were some of the things you got?
A wine bottle.
Wine? Lynn, did you say wine?
Yeah, so I try to do something different. It's something that they can remember me by
Awesome.
constantly. Wine bottle, they drink it, throw it away. They forgot about me. So I always give them a closing gift. There was someone here that was teaching us Ignite, and I don't know if it was you or who it was, but they would actually gift their buyers home warranty for a year. And I thought that was pretty good. Something that I might think about doing.
Yeah, that is a nice idea. So again,
Yeah.
home warranties on our sheet, but
Yeah.
it depends on your state. Home warranties aren't as typical, but yes, I agree. It's a nice gift. I see Keith unmuted.
I've gotten coasters with a picture of the house and coordinates of the house. And then on the back was the agent's contact information. So I thought that was a pretty good idea.
That's a really good idea. So I love that. Eric, what have you seen?
So when we bought our house a while back, I didn't think this was odd at the time, but now knowing what I know and looking back, it seems slightly a little out of suit. But we didn't get anything from our agent, but our lender sent us, like a coffee basket, a couple coffee mugs, branded coffee mugs and stuff. And we still use those to this day. I could tell you, it takes 2 seconds for me to, tell you who my lender is. My agent, who I haven't heard since close, I might have to think a minute.
Bing, bing, bing. Thank you, Eric. You just gave us so much information that we're going to talk about today. It's just as important afterwards to keep in touch, right? The closing gift. For me, I made the investment. I've done everything over the years, between wine bottles that get drank and thrown away. I do little baskets. I've given gift cards. I've given restaurant cards. I've done it all. Right now I'm on a Cutco, binge where I have like 12 cutting boards with my name on it, or it just says home is where the heart is. And then on the back has my name, and I have a knife that goes with it. So, and I got knives for referrals, the same thing. So, anything that has your name on it, like Eric, I love that you said, like, I still know who my lender is because you see it every single day. So think about, what does it look like that can be a value for your client? And some people use the same thing every single time. I've always changed it up a little, do it different for each person, depending on their wants and needs. But make sure you do something. Some people buy pizza for the night of moving in. Right? Like, hey, here's some pizza for your movers. Know your buyer, right? Somebody who's 22 and is buying their first home and their friends are moving them in on pickup trucks is different than maybe someone who's 60 and is hiring movers and moving to a new area for downsizing. They have different things that they're interested in, right? Would you agree with that? I promise 10:15, we're going to take a break. I need you all to stay with me. All right. After that closing, you're following up within a week. Put that on the end of your timeline, like after the close number at the end. Follow up with buyer, check in within that week. How's it going? How'd the move go? Doesn't have to be a whole week. It could be 3 days, like you decide. But within that first week, you should be touching base with them. And then down the line, we're going to start talking about follow-up systems to keep them clients for life. Okay. Any questions about the buyer part of our timeline? All right, my friends, we are ready to move on to put our seller hats on. Seller timeline. So the next page.
I'm sorry, Linda.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have a quick question regarding home warranty. So if during the whole buying process, if you decide not to do the home warranty, then can you do it later on, or it has to be done at that time?
Typically, you have to do it at the closing. You have to do it by closing. So the sellers sometimes, in the old days, prior to this market, sellers would purchase home warranties and give it to the buyer for a year. Agents have done that, like Linda mentioned. So there's definitely ways that it can be done. Home warranties can be a negotiation piece in the home inspection, right? So say like we brought back to like, there's a problem, garbage disposal. And the seller says, I'll buy, you know, either they have a home warranty, they got it while they had it listed, or everything's working, but it's at the end of its life. That's a famous quote from every home inspector you'll ever meet. It's at the end of its life, or the end of its useful life. So the buyer gets nervous after that home inspection and says, oh, like everything's old. I didn't realize how old everything was. The seller or the agent or whoever wants to provide it can say, you know what, we can ask for a home warranty. You can ask the seller for a home warranty, and at closing, it covers the buyer for a year. So that can be a negotiation tool. Again, I am not seeing a lot of that right now because of the market that we're in. Good question.
Thanks.
All right. If there's any other questions, I promise we can just jump off and ask.
So
All right.
what does a home warranty cost for a year generally?
I haven't done one in a while. I would say they used to be like $500, and the seller doesn't pay it till closing. So the seller pays it, or whoever the agent's gifting it. But I think it depends. There's like tiers of things. So it depends how many systems it's going to cover. A basic one is obviously the cheapest. Then there's like a level up that covers like washers and dryers, you know. So I would say ask your office who they use for a home warranty company. So that way you just have the information. In our office, we have brochures, everyone, if who's in my office here. And, you know, typical, it's like American Home Shields. I don't know other states what they use, but that's what we typically use.
Is the topic of home warranty, is that typically proactively brought up, or do you find that's something that's usually reactively brought up? I mean,
so if I put my listing agent hat on and I have a house that has a lot of older things and I know it might be tough, and again, I'm going to go to a regular market, I would say like to the seller proactively, hey, I know that your furnace is older and, you know, like a lot of the systems are older. One of the things that can overcome that objection is to offer a home warranty. And if we get that now, it costs you nothing, but if anything breaks while your house is on the market, it's covered.
Lorna, I had a question. Do you feel comfortable in this market waiving the home inspection where the buyers are paying so much over the asking price?
That is a great question. I do never, ever, ever feel comfortable telling a buyer to waive a home inspection, nor should you. We will never waive a home inspection. What our job is to tell them what's happening right now in the market. So this is the conversation I have. William, as we get ready to write this offer, well, first of all, I talk about it in the buyer consultation, right? You know, we're looking at houses right now. Houses are not plentiful, right? We have very low inventory. So that means higher buyer demand. So William, as we go out and look at houses, I want to let you know this, that there's a lot of different ways that we can negotiate when we get to that offer stage. We can put down more money, right? We can, I see some people waiving home inspection. William, I have to tell you, that's not where I would like to go with this. I don't feel comfortable ever recommending that. And at this point, William might say, huh, my dad's a home inspector. Oh, my best friend's a contractor, or my uncle's this. You know, I'll have them come with me if I'm really serious about a house, because I've heard that, because it might be on the news a little bit, that that's happening. But I'm always going to say, I don't recommend, but we're seeing that happen more and more. But I'm going to tell all of you here today, I have buyers. We have written 6 offers. Last night, their offer was accepted with a home inspection. And there were 11 offers. Okay, so it's not just the home inspection, it's all the terms and conditions. I know it's hard, and I know your first instinct is like, oh, we have to just get rid of the home inspection. That's what's going to make it work.
No.
You'll find the right seller who's willing to work with you. The fact is they had good terms, they're strong buyers. They just want to feel comfortable. And I had that conversation with the listing agent. I said, hey, they have a home inspection. I said, and we're never going to waive that. And she said, I never recommended either. I knew I had found a kindred spirit. And she said, you know, I get it. That's totally fine. That's not an off the table for me. Now, at the end of the day, if she had had one offer that had the same terms and conditions with no inspections, we might have lost. But the buyer and I had the conversation. We're going to find the right seller who's willing to let you do your due diligence. And they were willing to wait. We were tired though. They were like in tears when they got that accepted offer. Because they're tired every single weekend looking at houses. Every single weekend putting an offer. Yes, Linda.
I had a question. The one that I had was a condo and the buyer just did not want to do the inspection. And I understand everything is HOAs and it covers the main, structure of your home, but he waived it. What was I gonna do? Force him?
Absolutely not. And I have
never a home with everyone, even if they're buying a home as is, you're still doing it for informational purposes regardless, because if it's something that is huge, you can just back off from the deal because the repairs. I've had a contract that it wasn't as is. Nope, we're not fixing anything. And once you get that offer accepted and it's really there and everyone signed, then we do the inspection. And even though it's as is, it's only for informational purposes. We found out there was termites. So guess what? They had to fix it. They had to take care of it. So it was now it's kind of cold. So what they did is they gave them a seller credit towards it for the cost. When spring or summer comes, then they could take care of it. But it's just because a lot of the properties are as is and they're not going to do anything, but still do the inspection, because regardless, once that offer is accepted and you're already going through that process, they'll fix some stuff. Trust me. They have done it.
And like I said earlier, everything's negotiable, right? And you just have to know the other co-broke, have a good relationship with them, right? Understand what they're willing to do and what they're not willing to do. But never go in expecting the seller to fix anything. And if they do, it is a bonus in your buyer's sight. But that's your job, is to figure out when you can push and when you cannot. But it's all about getting a safe home for your buyer.
Now, if they do an inspection, right, and something huge comes up, big, we're looking at big factors here. One of the reasons why I was told, I'm not sure how true this is they would have to disclose it. So then the next buyer is aware of the termite issue or anything else. So why not resolve the problem now? Instead of when you do an inspection, they're now they have to disclose it for any future buyers. So they will take care of it.
Yeah, we did talk about that already, that, yep, absolutely. If there's something comes up that is safety, structural, mechanical, they have to disclose it as a listing agent. Great points. This is a good discussion about buyers. I love buyers. All right, next, sellers, which I love is just as much, right? Because right now in this list, if you have a listing in this market, most likely you're going to get paid. Would you agree with that? Listings drive this market. Anybody read MREA, Millionaire Real Estate Agent?
Not
Okay.
yet.
So what I want you all to do at the end of this class, buy the book or download it on Audible. Gary Keller wrote that book, my friends. There you go, right there, Stephen. Woohoo! Read the book. The region is actually doing, I think, a book club on this right now. Has anybody seen that? Right? Dig deep into this. I call it the Bible of real estate agents. It is going to teach you how to build a sustainable business. It is an awesome book. Okay, we're going to go on to sellers and the timeline for that. So turn to the page in your participant guide that I put in the chat or on your piece of paper. We're going to do the same thing that we just did for buyers. One line, and a line across. Let me know when you're ready. Give me a thumbs up, a virtual thumbs up or a thumbs up like this. All right, I see you guys. All right. So the seller has a little less things, but it's still the same. We got the accepted offer. I move it all the way down here. As the listing agent, the seller agent, you got the offer accepted. You need to send it to, make sure the seller has a copy, obviously. The seller's attorney has a copy, and the co-broke has a copy of the accepted offer. Next on your line is receipt of deposit. Now you've got to make sure you get the deposit check from the other agent. Okay, so I'm going to go back to sometimes we have to do both jobs or we have to be a team player here. We always have to be a team player. And one of the things we need to do is maybe meet the agent somewhere, right? Or if your office uses Deposit Link, you send it over. If you don't know what Deposit Link is, ask your office if you have it. I know quite a few of our KW offices use it. And what Deposit Link is basically, as the listing agent, I send to the buyer agent a link for that $1,000 deposit. And it's like an ACH withdrawal. The buyer puts in their routing number, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden the deposit comes through. It is a beautiful thing. I've saved so much time with Deposit Link. As a listing agent, I love it. It charges like $10, but it saves gas. And right now, you spend that much money in gas driving around to get the silly check. So you got the deposit, right? Now inspections. Okay, so I'm going to tell you that I've always forever gone to my home inspection as a listing agent. Then I joined KW, and you know what they told me? Stop going to those home inspections as a listing agent. Why do you think that is? Now, you should check with your office and how your office does things. I'm going to say that right now. Our office recommends that listing agents do not stay and listen to the whole home inspection. We've already talked about why this might be. Why do you think this could be?
Disclosure. You'd be forced to
Disclosure.
disclose anything you overheard.
That's right. And the attorney for the Greater Boston Real Estate Board states this: if you have knowledge from a person who is considered an expert in that field, then you need to disclose it. A home inspector is considered an expert. I've seen some that I might disagree on that with, but overall, they are considered experts. So you need to disclose. So some people don't go at all. Some people stop in at the beginning or stop in at the end, or both. Like check in, like make sure they got in the house, make sure everybody knows where everything is, access to the garage, blah, blah, blah. And then they say, all right, I'm going to come back. Let me know if you have any questions. And then they pop back at the end like, hey, how'd it go? Like, and you know why a lot of people do that? Because buyers who are in an inspection and they're like walking around, they're like, oh, it's fine. I can't do it really good on my thing. Other ones are like crying as they're walking out because they're so upset. I, as the listing agent, want to see what they're looking like when they walk out that door. Are they excited? Are they still in love with that house? Or am I going to be getting a phone call later saying that there's a problem? Right? And if I don't go at all, because sometimes I can't, I will ask the agent, can you just check in, let me know if you have any questions during the inspection, and that way I can get answers for them at real time, right? Hey, we can't figure out where, the water shutoff is. I can text the seller. Or at the end, hey, just let me know how it went. You want to keep in touch, let's find out what happened.
So your client is going to tell you the bad things they heard from the home inspector. Are you still liable to disclose what you hear secondhand from your client that they heard from the home inspector?
So I'm a seller agent. So my client is the seller. The buyer's agent would be the person sharing that with me. And typically it is secondhand. I didn't hear it from the expert. Again, check with your office to what their policy is on that. But the expert, that's why we don't go. And a lot of times agents just say, give me a broad view. Are they excited still or not excited? They don't want details for that exact reason. I had called, a house came back in the market and asked the agent, what happened? She said, the buyers just said they found things at the home inspection and didn't tell me any details. Well, they didn't tell her any details because she didn't ask. She didn't ask because she didn't want to know. I'm going to tell you that's probably not the way I'd run my business because I don't want to get another offer falling apart. I'd like to kind of know what's going on. So it's kind of a conundrum, isn't it? If the buyer walks away, do you want that to keep happening?
No.
No.
What,
Go ahead,
what if,
Keith.
what if you had a client like you're and on the seller side and the seller wants to be at the inspection? I know, that's what that was my initial reaction.
So what I say to my sellers is this: if the seller says, I really want to be at the home inspection, I tell them a few things. You're not paying for it, the buyer is, right? That the buyer is paying for the inspection. The second thing is, I say, Keith, you love your home and you've worked really hard on it. Inspectors are paid to find things. It doesn't feel good when a home you've loved and lived in for so many years, they start saying this is wrong and that is wrong. Your first reaction is going to be to say, no, that's not true. No, I fixed this. But it's much easier to just let it happen, right? And you have those conversations way before home inspection, when you take the listing, before you go on the market. Just better not to be there. And I talk about disclosure with them. And I let them know for them as well as for me. I don't want to know, you know, we don't want to be there. Lisa, you look like you're going to say something.
Lead inspection, which I know rarely happens, but when it happens, so we know there's going to be lead in this house. Do I want to be there for the inspection? It is going to be attached to the house either way. I'm going to have to see the report. Does it matter if I'm there?
I don't think it matters if you're there, but it does help to hear, like, you know, because as you know, sometimes there's only lead on the outside, not on the inside, but it's still lead, right? So it has to be disclosed. But if you're able to speak to it, then it makes it a little bit softer when it happens.
Okay.
Yeah, great question. Okay. So seller timeline, let's continue on. So the inspections have happened. We have worked through, as the seller agent, we're helping the seller decide what's real and what's not. What becomes really important in this critical period between inspection and either the second contract or the, you know, through that due diligence period? What are some ways that we can help not only our seller, but our buyer get through that period? It's by having our vendor partners. So I'm not this is all, I'm kind of talking all about this whole entire day throughout this class, just so you know, like we're supposed to talk about this later. But vendor partners are really important. So I want you to think about, who knows a plumber? Who's ever had a plumber for their house? If you do not know a plumber, how do you find one? Ask agents in your office. Right? Do you guys have a Facebook page or an email contact list? Make sure you're asking, do you have a painter? Do you have an electrician? Do you have a roofer? Do you just have a general contractor? I'm trying to think what else. Plumber? Did I say plumber already? Painter?
Yeah.
What other things do they need for houses?
Electricians.
Electricians. Gutter people, that comes up in inspection sometimes. Pest people.
Tree
Appliance
removal.
guy,
Eric, what'd you say?
an appliance guy.
An appliance guy. Ian, what did you say?
I said tree removal.
Tree removal, that's a great one. You guys should be writing these down, just in case you didn't know that, be writing this down.
Landscapers.
Landscapers, driveway people. There, we could probably just stay here all day and talk about different house things, right? Hardwood floor guys, carpet guys, tile guys, granite people, kitchen people. Whew, it's a lot. You want to have a complete vendor list, just so when all of this stuff comes up at a home inspection, you'll be able to say, oh my gosh, I'm going to call NW Pest Control. I know them there personally, and I'll see if they can come out tomorrow to take a look and see what's going on and give us a treatment plan. I know a lead paint remover. I know an asbestos remover, right? All of those things. And you, now I'm gonna tell you, I used to have a huge vendor list, but I'm old, been doing this a long time. Guess what's happened to a lot of the people I used to work with? They've also retired and moved on. They're old like me. So I need to keep updating my list. So I've had recently things pop up. And I have a group in my office that I text a little group message to and say, okay, I'm in need of this. And they give me their names. And then I look like superstars to my clients, like, oh, here you go, here's some names. Oh, house cleaners definitely have that too. So get your list, but know your group of people in the office or your Facebook page to get that list going. Okay, because now if there's a problem, your seller, you can help them negotiate. Is it a big deal? A lot of times I'll call my electrician friend, who happens to also be a firefighter, and I'll say, hey, Mark, this happened at the electrical, you know, and I'll say, send me the report. I'll look it over. I'll say, yeah, that's probably gonna cost your buyer $100 or your seller. And then the seller can decide to do it or not do it, right? If the buyer's gonna walk away and it's $100, I might decide that's a good idea to just do it. Again, I will have to disclose it. So just let's fix it. I have my seller's hat on still. Okay, so that's why I wanted to jump in and talk about that piece. Make sure you've got that vendor list ready to go. All right, after you sign that purchase and sale and you've done your inspections and you have your due diligence period done, we're waiting for the appraisal call. If you as a listing agent haven't heard anything within that first week, call the buyer agent and or the lender. I usually start as a courtesy to call the buyer agent. I might call and say, Lisa, hey, I know we signed purchase and sale last Wednesday. I still haven't heard anything. So I'm just wondering, can you check with the lender? Because she most likely has that relationship. I don't want to step on toes. But if Lisa never calls me back or I never hear anything, then I call the lender probably by Friday and say, jeepers, I send a little email, just checking on the appraisal. I actually just did this for one of my listings. And I got an email right back from the processor who said, you know what, you're not closing until the end of June. We're trying to time it right so it's not too long. That is all I needed. And I can share that with my seller now to say, hey, we're gonna have a little bit longer of an appraisal time, and this is why. Right, so, or I can push and say, hey, I need it done because my seller's super nervous, but the conversation is open. So who meets the appraiser? Let's just stop there. This is a good one. The listing agent. You are meeting the appraiser. You've sold it to the agent, you sold it to the buyer, you're now selling it to the bank appraiser. In this market, bless you, Alexandria, you want to be sure that you are ready to work with the appraiser. This is what they pay you for right here, the sellers. They pay you for a lot of things, but this is so important. Show up with comparables. What's going on in the market? If you have 3 houses in similar price ranges, which is really hard sometimes right now, being able to say, I talked to the listing agent on that. She ended up with 12 offers and was about 100,000 over asking, or no contingencies or cash deal, no details. But I always bring them. Sometimes they don't want the comps, but right now they're pretty desperate for anything we can give them. I bring a copy of my brochure because in my brochure has all the information about the house. It has the floor plan with the measurements. So now the appraiser can just do a little drawing if they want, measure the outside with their little rolly measurer thing, but they do not need to measure every room because I've just handed them a floor plan. We're like best buds. I also bring copy of the purchase and sale of the contract to purchase. They need that. If it's a condo, sometimes they'll ask you to email condo docs. You guys are the keeper of the information. You want to be able to point out in your brochure, the appraiser works for the bank. Where they hired via freelancing. They were, so they were, great question, Ian. Sorry, I'm reading Ian's question. Appraisers are hired by the bank, but they work for a third party. They don't work for Bank of America, right? They work for ABC Appraisal. But they are contracted by the bank to do the appraisal. Great question. And the bank, in fact, isn't allowed to even pick them. Lisa.
What about making the appraiser aware of other offers that came in on the house that were in the same range as those you accepted?
I share my spreadsheet with them of offers.
Okay.
So when I am
Great.
getting multiple offers, I share a spreadsheet. Do you guys want to see what it looks like? Multiple offer, I can even share.
Yeah.
All right, hold on one second. Let's see. I don't know why this is being so weird. All right. Hold on one second. You guys are gonna get to see my messy screen. No, that's not it. That's not it. My drive. You see all my messy drives. Oh, there it is, right there. Probably could have done that without you all watching my screen. Eric, you have a question?
Yeah, you had said that the bank doesn't actually choose them. I wanted you to just kind of flesh that out just briefly, if you could.
Oh, sure, absolutely. So I lived through the bank crashings of 08, 09, 010, 10, all of that disaster. And what used to happen is that the mortgage people would pick their favorite appraiser and call and say, it's got to come in at this price. That's not allowed to happen anymore. So the bank originator or whatever, they don't get to talk to them. They don't get to pick them. They basically can send it out to the appraisal company and the appraisal company picks whoever goes out. But they don't get to have any communication with them at all.
Okay, so they choose the company, they just don't choose the actual individual, is what you're saying.
I actually am, you know what? Now that I'm saying all this, I'm actually not even positive they get to choose the company. I think they have to do like a round robin type of thing in the more, Keith looks like he wants to say something.
Yeah, I don't think they're allowed to choose that. I think it goes through like a centralized and a random appraiser since, like you were saying, the 08, 09 situation, part of that reform law.
Exactly. They still do have preferred. Let me just tell you that. I'd like to tell you it's all changed and it did for a while, but there's still some preferred appraisal companies that are used, which is why half the time you have to wait so long because they're so backed up.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. All right. So this is what it looks like. Address, client, buyers. So buyer agent name. And I put here notified outcome. So I remember who I told. Again, my state has 2 contracts. So mine will look different than yours. But this is what the offer was. If they have a highest and best, offer deposit, P&S, any concessions from seller. Don't see that too often right now. The loan amount, did I get proof of funds? Do they have a house to sell? The dates, the timelines. And then I never use this bottom part, but this was given to me. So again, everybody shares their information, but it's the net offer with if there's an escalation clause. So I add things in here a lot, but this is kind of a basic overview of what a multiple offer situation could look like. I will, and I think that you hopefully doesn't change it if I share it with you. I'll put it in the chat. So you guys can grab it out of there if you want to have it for a tool in your toolbox. I'm gonna give you all a minute now because I feel like you'll all be distracted getting it out of the chat. All right, so, and please just make a copy. Hopefully I gave you the uneditable version, but if not, just make a copy and then it's your copy. That's what I did when I got it. So, all right, so we've gone through the appraisal. I'm gonna go back to my page here. Let's close this down. Done. Okay. I think it went forward too much. I'm gonna just see where we're at. There we go, it's timeline. So we did the appraisal. Sellers need to move out before the closing. I know, that's so surprising, isn't it? They have to be out of the house. So they need to be somewhere in here moved out because they should be out before the final walkthrough. That isn't a perfect world, my friends. It doesn't always happen that way. I know it's hard to believe, but sometimes I'm there and the seller's still moving stuff out. I, as the listing agent, have helped them put stuff out to their moving truck. I know somebody who just moved bunnies for somebody, for their seller, right? So we just need to help. That's what we're here to do, help them get out. And then the closing. So Lisa asked me if I go to the closing. As a listing agent, in the old days, I always went. The old days meaning before COVID. If my seller was going, I was going. Right? Because again, I'm there for the moral support. I'm there to make sure there's no hiccups, right? Make sure that the seller has the keys, like all of the things that need to happen at the closing. Pick up my check sometimes. Kind of important, my friends. But just making sure that everything goes smoothly. Nowadays, very, very rarely are buyer and seller sitting at the same table. Ooh, final tax appointment. Oh, sorry. Okay. I didn't realize that was just to me. So anyway, any questions? You're now at the closing. Closing has happened. Inspection and unsatisfactory report. Okay, I'm going to go through the chat before we go on break. Is that okay with everybody? All right, so I think, because again, I am here by myself, I can't always see it. So the appraiser, I got that one. Warranty is major systems in the home, insurance. Oh, thank you for explaining, Eric. Warranty is a major, somebody asked about home warranty and home insurance. Warranty is covering major systems in the home. Insurance is the home itself and its belongings. We answered the appraisal question. Let's see. Can you spend on inspection? Unsatisfactory reports. Where's the, okay, so I'm going to start with that question. So it's going to happen. Is there a perfect house out there?
No.
Not even new construction. I sell a lot of new construction. That doesn't happen either, right? There's always going to be something that's going to come up. You need to know your buyers. You need to have a good buyer consultation to explain why this is for their knowledge, not for renegotiation. You need to give them examples. But you also need to have those vendor partners for that buyer to be able to say, you know what, there's a crack in the foundation. Let me call A1 Foundation. A1 Crack Foundation is their name. And they will sometimes on the phone while I'm at the inspection say it's $750 a lolly column. And I'm just making that number up, so don't quote me. A1, I call him, he gives me a number. I say to the buyer, oh, you know what, he said that it's going to be $750 for each of the lolly columns. And you know, he can come out tomorrow if you wanted to get how many you actually need. Whew, I've just thwarted off that before. Sometimes I'm at the inspection making those phone calls. Knob and tube wiring has been found. Call my electrician. Can you come and take a look at this? They say they're finding knob and tube. Can you come out tomorrow? Be that resource, right? Get ahead of it. Solutions based. Right? Because your buyer still wants to buy the house, but now they're afraid. But if you get a really bad report, and I guess Linda, I guess I would love some examples because everyone's different in terms of what they think is really bad. You know, I'll just tell you this one little quick story. I had one very beginning of my career back in 1993, 4, when I first started. My best friend is a contractor. We went to look at a house in Harvard, Mass. And we're walking around and he's looking, he said, the sills are rotted. And I was like, okay. He said, so, you know, I'd probably have to jack the house up, blah, 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 this and that. He didn't care that their sills were rotted. I went home and asked my husband, what is a sill? Because I didn't know what a sill was. I was 23 years old. I had never built a house. I'd never been in a house. So he built a house for me on paper and explained it to me. The sill holds the house up. It is really important. So, but for that buyer, he didn't care, right? Most buyers would care. Linda,
Yes.
you said you want to give me an example?
Yeah, well, my first contract, first ever. When we did the inspection. And of course, it was the one with the termite situation. So, you know, my inspector, he's pretty awesome. He's, you know, he'll talk about it, but he's not making a big, oh my God, no. He's like, oh yeah, you got termite, no problem. You just get that treated, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not a big deal, you know? So the buyers come back and they shoot me an email. We talked about everything. So, you know, the structure's fine. The termite, we can talk to the seller, see what it is. Just keep in mind it was an as-is home. But again, you know, if there's anything that's important to you, because keep in mind that what's important to me may not be important to them, and what's important to them may not be important to me. So whatever's important to you, let me know what your concerns are and what, you know, when we get the inspection report. And he gave me a list. Some of the list was like, oh my God, are you really kidding me? But anyway, you know, I have to, it's important to him. So I told him, I said, listen, I could present this unsatisfactory report, letting them know what you're looking for from the seller. Keep in mind, this isn't as is, nothing major with the structure of the home, nothing, the roof is great, foundation is great. Yes, we'll talk about the termite, that's something important. But he still was like, you know what, I still want this put in there. I still did.
Yeah, of course.
And, I mean, he's asking me, I'm here to represent my client. I had the listing agent call me back and, are you really effing kidding me? And I'm just like, oh, really? I don't even know you. So I was like, I understand the frustration. It's as is. I said, I understand that. I said, I'm just here representing my buyer. This is what's important to him. Just please do me the favor and just forward it to the seller. She was like, don't tell me how to do my job. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, I'm not trying to have you do your job. I'm just saying this is what he's looking for. Guess what? The seller did 90% of what, and it was an as-is home. He did 90% because he just wanted to get it done and over with.
Right.
Little, simple, minute things that he put on there. Again, I can't tell him, are you kidding me? Why are you gonna put, that's not my job. Okay, no problem. I'll present it. Just keep in mind, the seller may refuse to do some of this because it's not a structural big thing that they're looking for. It's an as-is home, but we'll do our best to see what we can get done. But what are your main things that you really like, non-negotiable things that will make you walk away from this deal? So we took those 3, put them on there, and the rest we listed. I highlighted the 3 main things. And guess what? The seller did 90% of it. The listing agent calls me back, apologizes, and we still,
You're moving forward. You're moving forward, Linda.
Yeah, we move forward. I spoke to her. We're here to do this together. I'm here to support you. You're here to support me. Let's leave this alone. Whatever conversation we had, we leave it, drop it. Let's move forward and work together, get this at the end zone. So pretty much it worked, but you just never know, right?
Right. So, and that, thanks for sharing that story. And so, first of all, shocking always when somebody kind of explodes. Again, remember what I said at the beginning, we're always going to give grace that we don't know what's going on. Maybe their seller's really grumpy. You don't know what's happening. So like, whew, and she apologized, which good for her to say like, hey, I overreacted. I'm so sorry. So I love all of that story, that piece of it. I didn't love that she yelled, but I love that she apologized. And you took the high road and just kind of kept going through it. That's our job, right? Stay neutral, build that relationship. It comes full circle. And the fact is, we can never assume that the seller's not going to do anything. So it doesn't ever hurt to ask. Sometimes it can hurt the relationship. The seller might say no, and then now everybody feels a little like nobody's winning. So it's all about the win-win. You just never know what's going to happen with a bad, there's no pass fail in a home inspection. If your buyer's upset and wants things done, you're to follow lawful instructions. You work for them, right? But just, again, it sounds like you did a great job preparing the buyer. Like, this might not happen. What's the most important thing that you can ask for, right? Because sometimes buyers over ask. They'll put a list of 10. If the seller does 5, they're happy.
He had 9.
Yeah, yeah, it happens, right? So again, it's really about that preparation, talking with them, letting them know. What I say to my buyers is, we're walking out of a home inspection. How are you feeling?
Okay.
And then I say this, tell me the 3 top things that are on your mind or biggest concern right now, if any. And then they share at that moment, what are the big things? So now when that listing broker calls and says, how'd it go? I can say, you know, they're still super excited, but there are a few bigger things that they have concerns about. They're waiting to get the report, and I'll definitely get back to you. Right? So, but the reason I do this with my buyers is because A, I want to know how they're feeling in the moment, because they've just listened to the home inspector, right? There are definitely things that stand out usually. Then when they get the 50-page home inspection with little arrows pointing to all the things that are wrong with their house, they get overwhelmed. And all of a sudden, this 3 things turns into 50 things. And that doesn't feel good. And then they start panicking. So I let them know, hey, you're going to get this report. It's going to feel scary. But I'm just going to let you know, like, these are the 3 things, right, that you're saying is most important. You probably didn't hear everything, but these are the big ones, right, that you're most concerned about. And we'll deal with that. Let's see what the report says. And just give them that reassurance. That's how I handle it.
I have a question. I'm a little perplexed on something.
Okay.
So you said some Keller Williams offices tell their listing agents to not go to the inspections. I'm wondering how a listing agent and a seller are not gonna not know what's wrong, because the other agent's gonna be getting back to them with the problem. So I don't see, they know. So how can they
This is
not
just our
disclose
office,
anything?
right?
Huh?
This is just our office. And when you go to a home inspection, there is a million things that home inspector is talking about. Me as an agent, I have to take it all in and assume that all of it's a big deal, because I'm not a home inspector, right? So I have to disclose all of it. If Lisa comes back from her home inspection and say, here are the 3 things, and then we negotiate and we don't come to a deal, then I can say to the seller, okay, well, I'm gonna have to disclose these 3 things I know. Or the seller may say, I'm gonna fix 2 and you can disclose that one.
Okay, so if you go to the inspection, there might be 100 nitpicky things that you have to disclose that aren't a big deal, but you're going to eventually know the big things, and you'll have to disclose those if the
they're
seller
shared
has
with
a problem. Yeah, okay, yeah, that explains it.
Thank you for asking, because again, you guys, if one of you has a question, that means someone else might have the same question. All right, it is 10:24. You've all been sitting for 1 hour and 24 minutes, as have I. We've all had lots of coffee, lots of water. So I'm going to give you till 10:35. You can shut your screen off. Please don't leave me. There's not that many of you today. I need you all. Come back at 10:35, screens on, powered up, get a snack, and let's finish up. Sound good? Again? Okay. How was the break? Everybody ready to wrap it up? We're almost there. I'm so excited for you guys to be just about done. Well, for some of you. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk a little bit about communication points, right? And what that means is, when are we keeping in touch with the client? Do not think about the fact that you get an accepted offer. You're like, hey, I'll see him at the closing table. That's not how it works. We're right. This is the most important part, right? For both the buyer and the seller, we're there together. So I want you to think about, we've talked about the different parts between the offer and the closing. When do you think the communication is important? Besides all of it, give me some key communication points. Or do you want me to give them to you? All right. You're all looking at me like, So first thing is they've got the accepted offer, accepted contract. I send them an email. I mean, obviously I call them, but then I send an email. Like, congratulations, this is the first step. These are my next step emails. That's what I call them. That's my fancy title. So, and it just says, congratulations. Here's what's going to happen next. My personality is an S, very steady. So I give it to them a little chunk at a time. This is what's going to happen next. We're going to have a home inspection. It's called the due diligence period. And I'll let you know as soon as that's scheduled. Have you picked a lawyer? If not, can you get me one in the next couple days? Here's a few names. Communication one. After the home inspection, we're usually talking through a lot of that. Then we get, in Massachusetts, after the purchase and sale, the second contract, I send another email. Now, for you guys who don't have that, maybe it's after your due diligence period, after your second deposit, whatever it is in your state, right? But so then after, in Massachusetts, I say, congratulations on signing your purchase and sale. If you are the buyer, I'm sending an email that says, right now, you need to focus on getting your loan. So please be available and ready to give your loan officer whatever they need, because this is the 3 weeks that you have till your mortgage commitment. Please make sure, let me know if you have any questions. I'll check in with you every week, every 10 days, whatever it is it looks like. Their focus has got to be on getting that mortgage. Maybe setting up some movers, right? Depending if they're moving in like June, July, end of month, they might probably want to get that started because at least get quotes and things going. Maybe I'm dropping off some moving boxes. But so just that part, mostly it's all about their mortgage though. That's my whole point. For the seller at this moment, the email says this: congratulations on the signing of your purchase and sale or getting through your due diligence or whatever. Now we need to get some things done. In Massachusetts, and I think in most states, you need a smoke detector certificate. Right? So please make sure all your smoke detectors are working. As soon as they're working, I will call the fire department, or if I have sellers who stay at home, I say, you want to make sure you get that done. This is where I have actually already talked to them. This is an email saying, am I doing it or are you doing it? I do as much as I can for my working sellers. I'll be happy to meet the smoke detector, the fire department. They need to get final water bills, typically from their water department, unless they're a well. They need, if they have oil, they might need to get a final oil reading or get it measured. If they're a publicly owned utility company, like Littleton or Hudson, I'm talking about Massachusetts, and you guys, again, check your states. Do they need to get final utility bills? If you're like National Grid or whatever, the seller just has to call and shut them off. So again, check with your market centers to know what your local steps are for your sellers. A lot of this, so basically my email says that. These are the things that we need to get done. I'm going to do this and this. I need you to do that. Their attorney's also going to send them an email saying, you've got to do all this stuff. But the seller, just get packing, right? Let's get packing. They also need to have movers, just so you know. So what can you do to help? I let the next in the line for my buyers, I let them know if I know the appraiser's gone out. Like, hey, the appraiser went out yesterday. That's great news. I'm sure their mortgage person is telling them that as well. For the seller, obviously they know the appraiser's been set up for blah, blah, blah. I will see you, you know, I will be meeting the appraiser. You don't need to be there. Mortgage commitment is kind of the next big thing for this buyers. Woohoo, you got your mortgage commitment. That was the last hurdle that we had before you buy your house. Congratulations. That's an email and usually a phone call. Now, what do I have to do between now and closing? The buyer's got to, you know, let's talk about a final walkthrough. Let's get that scheduled. Let's make sure your movers are done. Here's the electric company. Here's the oil company. Here's the gas company. All the utility information they need to get things going. And FYI, don't forget to get online to the post office and change your address. For my sellers, it's the buyers get their mortgage commitment. Whew, this is actually happening. Let's make sure they've called all their utility companies as well. And just let them know, like, when are you going to find out? When are they going to be out? House needs to be in broom clean condition. That means something different to everybody. And make sure they're out before the closing. Find out if they're going to the closing, all of those things. Those are my communication points. After the closing, buyers, if I wasn't at the closing, or even if I was, I got notified by the attorney that you're on record. Congratulations, woo! Right? I have the keys for you, because sometimes they don't get them at the closing table. It used to be they always got them. Now, not so much. Depends on where you are. Sometimes the seller wants them to wait till it's on record and it's recorded and it's officially theirs. So then I go meet them and give them the keys. If it's the seller, congratulations. It was so great working with you. Hopefully you're working with them on the buy side, but if they've moved out of state or whatever, wherever they're going, congratulations. Good luck in your new home, you know, blah, blah, blah. Communication points.
Lorna, that's a big thing. The water and sewer in the town I was working with, they wanted 2 weeks notice. You know, 2 weeks, and then, you know, I was a week. They him and hard, but they did it.
Yeah. No, you need to, as soon as that second contract is signed in Massachusetts, but after your due diligence period, start working like with 3 weeks before your closing. That stuff's all going to be organized. You know, the final water and sewer. If you're, again, public utilities, they have final readings that need to get done. Sometimes with the water meters, this hasn't happened in a while. Thank God, electronic has changed everything, but they have to change the water meter. Like, it's wicked old and they have to, yes, I know I'm from Boston, wicked old, and they have to come and they have to change, put in a new water meter. So it's a bigger deal than just doing a final read. So sometimes, now you guys are all gonna love this. My fiance is a deputy chief. I'm not gonna tell you all where, because you'll tease him, but I bring him to a property that I'm selling for my sister to check all the smoke detectors. Everything works. We knew they did because we just put them up. And he's like, yeah, you shouldn't have no problem. My assistant calls me, it failed. I'm like, what do you mean it failed? She said it was missing a carbon monoxide detector in the basement. So he had to go back down and install said depart thing for me because it's my sister and help me out. But so the fact is that they don't always pass the carbon, they don't pass. They fail sometimes. Sometimes it fails because it's not, you know, up to what they need. Call your fire department, find out what their expectation is. I know in Massachusetts, you have to have carbon monoxide detectors within 10 feet of bedrooms. I think it's 10 feet, maybe 15. Anyway, it's gotta be close. So you need to make sure. Some fire departments, Sudbury was awesome. I did one and I said, just, you know, can you just double check it? And they came out and they double checked it for me before we did the actual test. Like, oh, you have to add one here, add one there, add one there. And I still failed and had to do it again. So you just don't know. Get those things done early. All right, so what I'd like to do, because we are such all different states, is I'm gonna put you into breakout rooms. Now, I'm not gonna assign you because I actually don't know where everybody's from. You should be able to choose your breakout room. I've put them by state. So I'm going to open the rooms. I'm going to give you guys just like 5 or 6 minutes to talk about your timelines, talk about your how would you, are there other communication points that you think are important, but just talk about what you've heard about in your specific state on these communication, on the way things go. Do you have any questions about what you're doing? This is really just masterminding together. Are you ready? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready. All right, I saw it. Oh, I see a cute little boy. All right, here we go. Can you all see the states, the different rooms with the states? It says you should be able to choose a room. No?
No.
Okay.
Go to the bottom of your screen. You'll have a new tab right next to reactions. It says breakout room. And then click on that and it'll all pop up.
Perfect.
There's no main one.
Oh, no, I forgot a main one. Stay in this room then. You can talk here.
Okay,
I'm so sorry. I missed that state.
no worries. I am a Maine licensed in Maine, but I do have interest in New Hampshire. But
If all are all.
I'll be working in Maine for the next 2 years.
That's awesome. Are you at the Portland office?
I am, well, not today. I'm in Brunswick.
Oh, nice.
Have you ever been to this office?
I have not. Isn't it new?
It's really nice.
Is that the one Maureen DeLeo works at?
I think that's her sign right there.
All right, that must be her office then. I thought she worked in the newer office.
There's also a Beth Bell.
All right, so everybody who's left, I don't know if they're just on their phones, but if you're from Maine, if Christopher, do you want to check out New Hampshire then, just so you can mastermind?
I can do that.
Sure. So go to the breakout rooms and click on New Hampshire. There's nobody from Vermont. Ian, do you want to go to Connecticut? I know Connecticut and Rhode Island sometimes share things. Lisa, if you go to the bottom, I can assign you to Massachusetts. There you go.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right. How'd it go?
Went well.
Yeah. What state were you in?
Massachusetts.
There's a lot from Massachusetts. I was surprised. It's good.
Popular area, I guess.
No worries. I'm glad that it was good. Where are they? Did nobody want to leave them, huh? They're still all in there.
Oh, I just saw the button, so I decided to return.
Yeah, they'll come back. It's okay. Here we go. All right.
Finish.
I think we got everybody back. That's great. How'd it go?
It was good. I just had, it was a little difficult because him and I, we haven't dealt with the seller part of it yet. I mean, I've dealt with buyers, but I mean, I do have one listing appointment today. So I'm hoping, but I've never dealt with the seller. So I'm lost a little bit, but it's okay.
Well, you know what? I'm going to show you some secrets for communication points and for steps along the way a little bit further into this. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. All right. So we are going to move on and we're going to go back to our screen. We've done this part. So plotted out when to communicate with people. Now we're going to talk about managing best practices for managing the deal. So I want you to think about when do you This is a sensitive time. When in the timeline do you think the deal is at risk of falling apart?
Home inspection.
Inspection's a big one, right? But I have to tell you, it can be any point on this timeline. It could be mortgage commitment. Buyers could just change their mind. The sellers could change their mind. It can happen at any time, but inspection, appraisal, and mortgage commitment are the three kind of key places where you might see the deal fall apart. So what's some best practices for keeping the deal alive? Setting expectations for each part of it. So as I told you earlier, I'm kind of meshing this whole class in that beginning part, which is why it took so long, because we already talked about at the home inspection, right? For the buyer, setting expectations at the consultation about what the inspection is, being there to support and anticipate and help find solutions for your buyer right on the spot. So having that vendor list, right? For sellers at home inspection, just preparing them. You know what? We don't know what the home inspector is going to find, because the fact is that they're there to see things that we don't know about. And we'll just deal with it as it comes. Don't worry. I've got a whole list of vendors I can help you with. For the appraisal, as the buyer agent, there's not much you can really do for that. Though you're welcome if, if you're worried about it, if it's like, oh, we went 200 over asking, work together with the listing agent. Like, what do you need from me? Here are some of the comps I used, work together if she needs anything or he or she needs anything. As the listing agent, again, this is your job, right? That's where you're going to make sure you bring the brochure, the floor plans, upgrades to the house. Make friends with the appraiser, get back to the appraiser, check in and see if they need anything, right? Be a partner with that appraiser as best you can. And then when it comes to the mortgage commitment, as the buyer agent, just again, setting expectations. Your job from the purchase and sale forward or the contract forward, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, is to make sure you get everything to them. Guess what you should not do, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer? Do not go buy a new car. Do not open a line of credit. Do not go buy furniture. Don't do anything that's going to affect your credit. Make sure you're preparing your buyers. They need to just stay steady right now. They can go buy furniture after. Right? And for the seller, there's nothing you can do as a listing agent except just making sure the date's coming along and everybody's doing what they need to do. So what tasks have deadlines and what are those deadlines? So we talked a little bit about this. I feel like I talked a lot about all of this, but tasks have deadlines. We talked about it, right? There's a deadline for a home inspection. There's a date. In Massachusetts, it's typically 7 to 10 days after the accepted offer. For other states, your due diligence period is probably around that same timeline. And if you're in another state and you know something different, tell me, but typically it's that same kind of 10 days, 2 weeks type of thing. In Massachusetts, that purchase and sale is 10 to 14 days from accepted offer. For all states, most commitment dates for mortgages, 3 weeks from the contract. Massachusetts is 3 weeks from the purchase and sale. Lisa, you look like you're going to say something.
I am. 10 to 14 days. In this market, though, aren't we seeing them a much shorter
We are.
rate? Yeah. Okay.
Yep, good point. So in this, again, talk to your market centers, what's happening in your market. We have 5-6 states here. Make sure you're asking, like, what are the timelines that you guys are using? So check with your PC, check with your team leader, check with your, the top agents in your office. But typically as a buyer agent, I'm making tight timelines. Everything's really tight right now because we're trying to make sure everything moves forward. But in the old days, in typical times, 10 to 14 days for that purchase and sale. Sometimes, and again, cash, everything can happen in 10 days total. So it's going to be different with the cash deal. And then how can you help manage other parties involved in the deal? We are the project managers, my friend, right? Communication, communication, communication. Make sure you're emailing everybody at every step of the process. If you are the listing agent, I heard from the appraiser, we're going out Friday, met with the appraiser, right? If you're the buyer agent, asking, have you heard from them? Keeping the attorneys and knowing who needs to know what. Right? The attorneys don't actually care about when the appraiser comes up. They do care when there's a problem, but they don't care until then. So the fact is that, and not every state uses attorneys. Some of you have title companies. Right? Doing things in New England like this is, it's fun because it's different for every state. But just knowing who needs to know what. The lender needs copies of the contracts and needs everything pertinent, but sometimes doesn't always have like, oh, the seller's fixing this or that. They don't always know that. So just understanding what each party needs to know along the way and communicating with those parties to make sure everybody's good to go. Okay, so how do we do that? How do we make sure that everyone's keeping, you know, on top of things? We have a system for that. Did you know that? What do we use? What is the thing that we are using a lot of? Command. Right? So co-broker relationship, we'll get back to that. I want to talk about command. I'm going right to here. And the reason I want to is because I think they should have this so much sooner in the thing. So everybody knows how to get in command, right? Except maybe Stephen, because he joined yesterday, but everyone else should know agent.kw.com. Does this look familiar?
Yes.
Okay. So in opportunities, yeah, don't look at all my past due stuff. I have to make some calls. So I know it's a little slow, sorry. Has anybody set themselves up as an opportunity yet? Okay, so I want you to practice this today. Put yourself in as a contact in command. Do you know how to do that? Let's start there. Does everybody know how to put themselves, make a contact in command? Okay, so once you make a contact in command, we'll just go with listing. Oh, let's see, do this. And we're gonna go to cultivate. This is an important piece, guys, so pay attention. And I'm sorry command takes so long when we're on here. So let's see. Yep. So notice all of my listing possibilities. There is numbers. See these 4 out of 4, 3 out of 4? Those are called stages. So for each of my clients, when I first meet them, the things I need to do, right? Get phone number, get email, get address, add to a smart plan. Then they move along to nurture, continue seller touches. This is a listing one. Send a call to action phone call. I can set a due date. Like, oh, I want to call them. Let's see, I'm going to call them next week. And I will get it on my task list. I'll show you where that is in a second. And then once they're hot, if you create a template, confirm timeline, contact seller to set listing appointment. Next is scheduling. If I have an appointment, again, I have templates all set up. So each step of the way, I have what has to happen and I can add dates to them. Where did I find this, you ask? Are you curious? Yes, yes, you are. I can see it. So up here at the top, it says edit stages. You can go into each stage and you can make a checklist. So see, I have a checklist here of what to do at that stage. what to do at that stage. And then I can add stages. So I have all my stages all set up, right? So if I go to appointment, let's see, I'll use this one. No, that's not what I want. Edit stages and appointment. So an appointment stages are scheduled, scheduling, kept. If I go to active, should be the biggest stage, right? Pre-listing. What are the 9 things I need to do for a pre-listing? If I have the contract signed, I have to submit to the MC. I have to send the seller the signed contracts. If you're doing pre-inspections, I need to get that scheduled. If the seller's doing that, I need to go to the town hall and gather information. Some people go online now. You don't have to necessarily go to town hall anymore. They wouldn't let us in for 2 years. Ask the seller if they have a mortgage plot plan. Provide timeline checklist to the seller. If non-MLS, so these are again specific for me and my state, my office. Set expectations of communications with the seller. And send to Chris, my broker signs all our contracts. Right, so there's 9 stages there. Prepare listing, schedule floor plans, schedule staging. Now these probably should be not in this order. Probably staging consult, then schedule floor plans. Enter listing into MLS, upload seller information. You see where I'm going with this? Right, there's a checklist. I have a checklist. Create marketing brochures, get keys, add important info to MLS, schedule open house. Let's see, active listing, install signage, lockbox, activate showing time if you're using it. So there are stages for everything. You have this for the buyer side as well. If I get down to the buyers, let's see, cultivate. I must have myself in here somewhere. There we go. It's my fiance. He gets used a lot. So he has different stages, right? Checklists for nurturing, for scheduling. These are all templates. You just have to hit that and your template pops right up. Showings, schedule showings. That could be like an every weekend checklist right now. How to do the offer, cover letter, offer, contingency, agency, all the things that I need in an offer. And again, your checklist might look different in your state. Offer signed by seller. Remember we were talking about, got the offer signed by the seller. Woohoo, check. Signed seller, offer to buyer, send signed offer to buyer agents. Check. Deliver checklist. Remember we talked about all these things in our timeline? So it's all here. If I put a date on it, let's see if I can just do today, see if it will let it work. Okay. So I just gave myself, I have a due date on that. When I come over here, now I'm going to jump out of opportunities and be on my home page. I have a task list every day. Again, I do have some past due things, don't judge. And this one, I'm going to do opportunities. There's no opportunities. So it probably hasn't synced in yet that I just set one for today for that buyer. So I will redo it, see if it's there. It might not be. So it's not there yet. I probably set it for tomorrow and didn't even realize it. But do you see what I'm saying is that anything I have to do is here. So every day when I start my day, I have my opportunity, what needs to get done. And I have my contacts. Who do I need? I have quarterly calls with all of my past clients. Check in. See how I've checked in for my, this is my seller. So I have to check in with him. So you have systems set up. Anybody curious how you set them up? This is gold, everybody. I just want to tell you, I used to have a paper checklist and I would have to look at each little thing and then check it all off. You have it now on your computer. I just cannot tell you how lucky you all are. All right, hold on, let's see. Oh, command. All right, so go to opportunities. If you're multitasker, you can do this while we're talking. You could open up your computer and you could go to command. And as soon as command hears me and goes to opportunities, you're going to create an opportunity just to practice, but I'm going to wait for it to stop spinning. So I'm going to create an opportunity. Do you guys remember we talked about this maybe last time, right? We're going to say, we'll say buyer, and we'll put in Jamie does it how. And then you have to put in your commission rate. So every office charge is different. I'm just putting it in for showing you. And I'm going to hit create. Okay, so now I have this buyer in here. We have all these stages. You actually don't have to set it up to put the stages in, but you should just to practice. Now, pretend I didn't have this here. I want to add an item. I just click on it and I might write, send a note and hit enter, save. And now it says to send a note after I have somebody I'm watching. Like, so nice to meet you at that, you know, book fair at the school. Look forward to getting together for coffee soon. And I can set myself a little due date to when I want to get that sent. Okay, but if you're just setting up your templates, you can do that just the same exact way. Okay, you're just setting up the templates. You're going to add an item and put things in. Where do you find these items? I am going to show you. I'm going to go back to my drive again. Task. Aha, copy of pipeline and task list. See this right here? Now, yours is going to be different possibly in your state, but we have a tab for listings and a tab for buyers. And again, everyone's is going to look a little bit different. Let's see, make sure this.
Lauren, is this your cheat sheet or is this something that?
This is well, this is the office cheat sheet. We created this when command came out.
I like it.
So what you basically do, my friends, watch this. I click on this. I hit Control C, so copy paste. I go back to my stages and I add it in. So there's way too many things here. Add item, and then I hit Control V, and now I've added it in. Hit save. I'm going to take that out because it actually doesn't belong in this space. I was just showing you how to do it. But that's how you in command can set up yourselves for success with your checklists. You must have questions about that. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to share my link with you. Hold on one second. Let me share again. Copy link. All right, in the chat is my cheat sheet. It's a great beginning, even if you're in a different state. So grab it out of the chat and use this to get yourself set up. It is, once you set the templates up in command, you never have to do it again. You can tweak it, you'll tweak it to different things, but you'll have it in there. So remember last week when I said you have homework about getting your buyer consultation done? Who got it done? Who got their buyer consultation done? Anybody? Hopefully you did. I'm not going to call you all out. Now, today you have different homework. Get your template set up in command opportunities. Add your stages in. Okay, mine's been set up for a long, long time, so it may be different than yours. But take that list that I put in the chat and just save it. And then print it out, bring it to your PC, bring it to your team leader, whoever you're dealing with, and say, is this what we use in our state? And they can go through with like what they use and what they don't. Okay. If you're in Massachusetts, that covers most of it. Again, every market center does something different. So I want you to just make sure you check in with your market center. All right. Any questions? But that checklist is one of the best ways to make sure that you are staying on task, you're communicating with everybody, and they even have that point in there. I don't know if you noticed, there's a client update button that you can update your client on those key points. I have not used that yet, so check in with your MCTT. Any questions? Have I lost you all? Are you all overwhelmed? All right, we're gonna go back. I know I skipped through a lot of stuff. We're gonna talk about Cobra for a minute. Why is your Cobra relationship important? I've kind of hinted around about this. We talked about it right at the beginning, but you tell me, why is it important?
Make the whole process a lot smoother if you have a good relationship with them.
Exactly. Makes the whole process so much smoother. Are you going to get along with everybody? Are they going to become your best friends?
Likely not.
Maybe not, right? Yet sometimes, and I hope this is okay to share, you do a deal with somebody. So I know Lisa did a deal with someone in our office and they get along fabulously. And here she is, part of our market center now, right? That was because it was a good relationship, good working relationship. Is that true, Lisa?
That is true.
Yeah. And so it is important because A, it makes the transaction smoother. B, they might become part of our team, right? And maybe you don't all know this yet, KW is the best place to be. And we want more agents to have that opportunity. So making sure that you let them know that, but keeping the transaction smooth, working together, being a team. Where could the deal be at risk if you don't work with your co-broker? Where could the deal be at risk if you don't work with the co-broker?
Any place, but after inspection, I would think would be one key point.
Exactly. Inspection is a key point, right? Every step of the way, you need to be a team together, but it starts right at the beginning. As a buyer agent, Lisa, I'm going to show you, your property. I have a few questions. And I start building the relationship, right? As a listing agent, I'm like, oh, I really like her. She called and asked me questions, right? Build that relationship. After the showing, give feedback. Anybody use showing time to show property in your area? And you get all those emails that say, please give us feedback. Please give us feedback. Give the feedback. It's helpful. As a listing agent, I feel so happy when people share that. So make sure you do that. That helps bond the relationship. If you're sending an offer over, call them, ask them questions. Every step of the way, building the relationship. Now they know. Like I talked to the agent the other day. I called her 3 times till she called me back. Try not to be a pain, but I needed answers to a couple questions to write the offer effectively. I gave up and just sent the offer over, but then she called me. Okay, I got your offer. I have a few questions. Okay, good. She knew I wanted to talk to her. And that's what I was able to say. Like, my person really wants to do an inspection so they understand what they're buying. And she was like, nope, I'm good with that. And she could tell by the way I presented the offer, right? She had very specific instructions on what she wanted. But in an offer, the presentation to that listing agent is another step in how you're going to have this relationship work well. Right? You've shown them that you're professional, that you're going to present things in a professional manner. You're going to be easy to work with. If they ask you something, you grab it. And vice versa. For us listing agents, we need to also be responsive and get back to people when they ask us questions. Right? The home inspection, if you haven't built that relationship and something comes up at the home inspection, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. Because they don't know you and they have 10 other offers. They don't really care. mean, that's not the approach I take, but that is the seller's market right now, my friends. So making sure you're building it up. So when you get to those stumbling blocks, and there will always be a stumbling block. I would tell you that in 30 years, almost every deal has, I always call them little road bumps, right? Every transaction has a road bump. Just matters if it's a little pothole or if it's like a big, huge speed bump that you're gonna like break an axle on. And so we want to make sure that we're working together to minimize those little bumps, those potholes, those speed bumps. So that's where the co-broke relationship becomes so important. Laura, I will find out for you. We do have, I know that there are a lot of market centers. I can't tell you specifically which one, but Laura, message me afterwards and I'll see what I can do for you. Script practice is really important, just so you all know. Just so that if you're not doing it at your market center, do it with each other. Look at all the people you have right here. This is part of your first building of relationships, making sure you get each other's information before you leave. Any questions about the Cobra piece, about why it's important, how to build it? All right, I know we're getting tired. Get repeat business. After the closing, your relationship doesn't end. Remember Eric said that he has to struggle to remember his agent's name? Whew. That is not what I want my past clients to be saying. They should know. Who do you know in real estate? Oh, my agent, Lorna, she was awesome. That is what you want them to be saying about you. So using the KW app, right? Huge piece. Because no matter if somebody's looking to buy or sell, everybody cares what's going on in the real estate market. Everyone. So share your app with them. Does everybody know how to share their app? Everyone's kind of looking, all right, I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Hold on. All right, so I have a call coming in, of course, when I'm trying to show you that. All right, so I have to unblur my screen.
It does so much more than it used to too. It's like getting cooler.
It's coming along in such a big way. It's awesome. All right, so first of all, does everybody have this KW app on their phone?
Yes.
Okay. All right. If not, go to the App Store and look for the white KW with the red writing. That's our KW app. We do also have, just for confusion, see the little red one? That's our command app. I have to log in, but that's the command app. So go to the white one. And when you have that open at the bottom of the page, it says more. Click on more. Hopefully, see how you can see like right there, it's my smiling face. Do you all see your smiling faces on your app when you go to the back page when it says more? All right, I see William shaking his head. Yes, I see my smiling face. Anybody else? Stephen, you'll catch up, I promise. All right, if you do not, the first thing you're going to do is click on Add Agent. So in that drop down, there will be one that says Add Agent. Once you hit Add Agent, put your name in to search for yourself and click on Make This My Agent, because you all should see your own smiling faces. Everybody good? All right. So once you do that, at that back page, there's one thing at the bottom that says share the KW app. What I want you all to do right now is click on share, and I want you to text it to your best friend or your partner or your spouse or your child. Text it to somebody. Just say, hey, check out my KW app. Do that right now. Unless you're on, actually, you can still do it while you're on the phone. I know you can. Just take your screen off and do it. Text to somebody, and then I want you to put in the chat who you texted it to. Just first names or You can just write best friend, dad, mom, sibling, whatever. Okay, friend.
Now, the only question I have, because this is something that I addressed in the market center, was when you share this app, it's telling everyone that my agent is myself. Look
Yeah.
at it. Okay, I
That's
use
what
my
you want.
KW app.
Yep, you want that. Basically, you want them to show that it's you, right? Like, hey, I'm sharing my app.
No, it says I use the KW app to search for homes with my agent, Linda Rodriguez.
So you can send it just that way, or you can type it in. Like, hey, I'm sharing my app.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sure. Jennifer, on the
Use
back
that?
page. Oh, sorry, Linda. I just see something in the text. On the very back page, you click on more, green thing, click on more, all the way to the right, Jennifer. It says more.
Yeah, more, yeah,
And scroll down and it will say share the KW app.
I see. Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, thanks.
So sharing the app is one way to keep in touch after the deal. After everything's over. How else do we keep in touch? By creating vendor and utility lists, right? Wowing your clients is being that person who is the resource for everything. So is anybody in a Facebook page with their town? Or like a mom and dad's page, or a, you know, furry friend page? Yeah, Laura, you are, right?
Well, you know what I did this morning, actually? So I'm in more than one town, even if it's not really my town. Like if it touches my town, I'm in it. But this morning I sent out one of the Golden Girls. I was like, I sent out a thing that said, I looked at my card this morning and I realized I'm old and I need a photographer for a new picture. And then I said, should I get a new picture or should I just put on some mountains that are as old as me? And then and so we'll see what I get for responses, but I said, send me your photographers. So not only did I get out there without like saying, hey, I'm a real estate agent, la, 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 I basically was supporting somebody's business while putting out there that I was an old real estate agent, most likely with experience, right? So, and hopefully I get somebody local to support and a new person to me.
You don't always have to be the resource. Ask who they know. I love that, Laura. Right? So, but there's always on those pages, people looking for recommendations, for referrals, right? So I always pay attention like, oh, so-and-so asked about this. If I know somebody, I send it over. Be the resource for everything. And then they talked about the closing gift, wowing your clients. We already discussed that. So I'm not going to go backwards and talk about it. See how I told you we talked about a lot of this as we went along? Any questions on how to wow your clients and get referrals? It's really all about being top of mind. It's also
Lorna,
about using command. Yes, go ahead.
When are you suggesting that you're sharing the app though? I haven't used the app. I haven't really shared it with anyone. I'm assuming at first introduction, right? Like if they're looking for homes, it's like a Zillow or a realtor.com, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I share it right at the beginning. So at the buyer consultation, I share it all my friends have it because they want to know what's going on. Okay. So everyone I know has it. I always tell everyone they will find the information. One day, about 5 years ago, I told my daughter, we're going to start looking for a house. And she was like, okay. So she's in school and I start getting text messages from her from ERA. I was like, oh, so I texted her back my KW app. But that's the thing. Everybody's looking and they're just going to Google and whatever comes up, right? Homes for sale in Massachusetts, homes for sale in Littleton, homes for sale in Northborough. And whatever comes up, they click on it, download my app, and they do.
Okay.
Right? So we have to be ahead of it. We can put it on Facebook. Check out my app. Because when they sign up, guess what happens?
You get their information.
You get their information, it goes into command. Goes into command. And you see what properties they're looking at. So all of a sudden, you know, somebody who kind of looks every once in a while starts looking all the time. Maybe they're a little more serious than just stalking what their neighbor's house is for sale. So that KW app really does come in handy. So yeah, Lisa, I share it right at the beginning and I share it
Okay.
with anyone who will listen.
Ready. Okay, that's good.
Yep. Start with your kids. They use that. And honestly, like my daughter, one time she said, oh, and this is before I had an app. She's like, Mom, so-and-so's mom said they're gonna move. And I was like, really? All right. Well, you know, is it all right for me to call? She's like, well, I told you you're a real estate agent. I was like, well, can I call? But if she could have said, teach your children. If I could have said, hey, share my app if anybody ever mentions it, she knows now, especially after the ERA thing.
So that's another question. She can share your app?
Everybody can share it.
Okay.
Everyone's app says share the KW app.
Fantastic. Okay.
That's why you want to make sure you're signing up with your personal email when you sign up, when you download it the first time. Use your personal email, not the KW one.
Oh,
Wait, why?
All right.
I
Well, I
didn't
don't
know.
know, Mike. That's what Mike McPherson says. That's what I do. But it does matter somehow.
Well, it matters, like I just got married and right now I'm having to redo it and I'm using my personal email to do it because like it messed up everything and so.
Right. Oh, there you go.
Or backwards, if you got divorced, I guess it would work the same way.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. All right. So we already customized the checklist. I sent you the stages, right? We talked about that. We're not going to talk about the consumer guide, but it is something that's on your app. And so it is something that's helpful to have. It's not working perfectly. I mean, I'm just going to be transparent. They're working on it. Let me show you what it looks like and where to find it. So here, see at the bottom, it says consumer. And this is where Lorna kind of geeks out sometimes, and I'm not even a tech person, but I think it's cool that I can send like a guide to what people are doing. So if you all take your phone, look at your app on the bottom, in the middle, it says guide. Okay, so now just acknowledge that you've seen it and look back at me. Thank you. And notice here, there's a buyer guide. And so you can go in and you can edit the pages of your buyer guide. So see that picture that I have on mine? That's one of my old listings. I changed it. Super easy. It's all like click of a button, replace the image, load a picture. All right, and then I can replace. Now it's that one. And I can hit save changes. So read through this and look at what, you know, what part of this, let's just save it first. What part of the guide works for you? Do you like, I didn't like the order of it, so I changed it. It said tour homes and then get pre-approved or something. I moved these around.
Well, Lorna, I have a question because I
Sure.
did try to work, because unfortunately our team doesn't use that, but besides the point, because I'm still learning commands. The pictures, how would I download a picture from, let's see, the website? Not really. Let's say I saved it into my computer. How would I put it into command to then put it into
So
my presentation?
if you want to load more, you can add images and then drag it up. So to see how I have list of images, or I can add an image, and then I can click and upload from my computer. So if I wanted to.
Yeah, so it must be something. Okay, yeah, and then you show me real quick.
So I uploaded it. Now I know there's like sizes that you have to have images successfully done. So
Yeah.
down here, can you see that? It's now in my list. It will now be in my list of images.
Okay, because when I did to create one, I just wanted to do like a nice little presentation just to post it on my Facebook. For some reason, it wouldn't let me do that, but it's okay. It could have been me, my computer itself.
And yeah, so the guides, I know, I had heard that there's some tweaks that are happening. So you definitely want to check in with your MCTT to ask them about it. But I will tell you that these go right to your app. It's a cool thing. And when it's working 100%, it's going to be amazing. But get in there now and just look at it. Put these in your words, right? This is a huge thing that you can have in your own personal app. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions about that? That's again how you build the client for life, is making the stickiness. In command, learning smart plans. I'm not going to teach you command today, but I will tell you smart plans are huge. Some of the things that they talk about. So I'm going to just, and this isn't even in the curriculum. This is bonus from Lorna. So after the closing, keeping in touch is absolutely just part of your job, right? So they have something called the 36 touch. Have you heard about the 36 touch, my friends? All right. So let's talk. I'm going to go real quick. Quarterly calls. 4 calls a year to everyone in your database. If you never heard this, write it down. 4 calls a year. There is a smart plan. Do you want me to show you? I will if you want. I told you I wasn't going to teach you command, but I love command. All right, so let's see. We're back at command. So smart plans right here. I have my smart plans, but there's a whole library. You can go through and look, but you notice the very first one is, actually that's the magazines. There's a lot of stuff in there, so I don't know them anymore. But the quarterly call plan, you basically add everyone in your database to reminder, need to call people. It says my internet is unstable. If I lose you, I'll come back. So it's loading. In here, trust me, it's smart plans. I'm gonna stop sharing to see if it will load faster. I'll share again. So if you put everything you know on a quarterly plan,
Oh. She died.
Oh, no, she'll come back.
Command got her.
Are you guys using the smart plans?
No. Terrible.
I like them.
I've used a couple.
Yeah,
of
they will use a different platform, but I'm just getting back into commands.
That when I just shared that app a few minutes ago,
yeah,
I just got myself as a new lead. Well, like when I shared it to claimed it because I got a new phone, so I had to go through the whole process again. And so I just downloaded the app, but I put it right into command as my contact as soon as I accepted myself as my own agent, which was kind of cool. I use, if you want, I'll share my, I can't do it because she disabled that. But I use ones for Facebook ads, and I use ones for birthdays, and I use ones for home anniversary, things I'll forget, like home anniversaries. That's a good one. I at least put a task in for myself for a home anniversary when I close something. Like yesterday, I called my friend Tyler Sandwell. All my clients are my friends after. So I called, and I'm not putting my face on because I'm having a bad hair day and all that. And I was out at the barn taking care of my horses, so you don't get to see me. But I closed on something a couple years ago as COVID was happening, and we had to go write it in the McDonald's as the world was closing. So I left a message. I would forget. Well, I wouldn't forget that one probably, but I called yesterday and left a message saying, remember when the world was closing and we were in the McDonald's? There you are, honey. I gabbed for you.
Did I'll get kicked off and had to come back on?
I gabbed for you until you came back on. I was saying nice things about Facebook plans. And I mean, smart plans. You're still frozen. Play with the easy ones first would be my suggestion, like a birthday or a home anniversary.
Yeah, I'm gonna try those. I've been playing around with it, so, you know, we have to learn this one, you know, when we vent on our own. Definitely.
She dropped off again. Ooh. Do people have questions? I'm not really teaching this class, but I used to be a productivity coach. So I used to teach this class. I just join in to see
Yeah,
what people are doing.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Do you know which or how to update the profile picture for this app to share? Because
You
mine
gotta go
should
into your
be
command, go into your command marketing profile and change it there.
sweet. Thank you.
If I could share my, if I was able to share my screen, what you would see in my command is, oh, here she comes. Nope. There you are.
My internet is very unstable. Did you
But
guys?
you
hear
look like you're at the office too.
Yeah, I'm at the office and it keeps going. So we're gonna end early because I'm never gonna lose you again. I'm so sorry. I love technology, hate technology. Laura, thank you for joining in and helping. Can you still?
Well, one thing I'm good at is talking. I don't want to, I'm not doing the coaching anymore, but I love seeing the new people. They have such wonderful ideas and I get more out of this class than a lot of other ones sometimes. So thank you.
Awesome.
I found some script partners.
Awesome. I love it. All right. So we all leave. 3 things that you learned today. Hopefully I don't lose you. I've lost you. Have I lost you?
We're here.
Okay, good. You all look so frozen for a second. All right, give me 3 things real quick. Shoot them out.
The command app and how we can share it is huge.
Awesome. So remember, you're sharing the KW app, not the command app. The command app's for you internally. The KW app is for you to share out.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Kevin.
Communication points.
What'd you say, William?
Communication points.
Yeah, huge, huge. You guys have a good timeline, you feel like? You know kind of what the process is? Awesome. All right, give me one more. Something else. You can't leave it.
Not to be there at
Close
the
the
inspection.
gift with your name on it, your reference.
Put your email, you put your name on your app. Awesome. Lisa, what did you say?
I said not to be there, not to be there at the inspection, or just to consider that whatever I'm hearing, I'm disclosing. That is.
And that's as a seller agent. As a buyer agent, you should be there all the time. Just pointing out, always be there with your client.
Timelines.
Timelines. Yep. All of this is about being kind, being communicative with all parties involved, and go have fun. This is a fun career. I've loved it for 30 years. You guys are gonna love it too. Just make sure that you're utilizing these tools. 30 years ago, this is how long ago this was. Me like a parent who says they walk uphill in the snow. I did everything signed, no faxing, no internet. I had to mail postcards. I had to do ads in papers. I used to have to take pictures. There was no photographers taking pictures and then go to the 1 hour. That's who I am. Now you all know. But the fact is that we have amazing tools at KW and it makes your job easier. So you go do what you do best. connecting with people, negotiating contracts, script practicing, prospecting. Get out there. Just get belly to belly with people. That's your job. So do your top 20% and let command be leverage to be top of mind, to keep in touch. Let's say app for you. Any questions about anything before we get kicked off again? You're all like, heck no, we're done 20 minutes early. We're leaving. Right. Thank you all for joining me. I'm teaching Win with Buyers in 11 days or about 11 days. If any of you want to join, we're going to do it virtual and in person at our office in Concord. Feel free to reach out. It's lornahelms@kw.com. Happy to help anybody who needs help.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lorna. Take care.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
On graduation for most of you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lorna.
Thank you.